More than 11 years after its release, Limbo remains an iconic installment in the history of video games as an art form. There is nothing that gives away its age, least of all its consummate elegance. The limitations on this experience are what make it timeless. I do not think it is possible to make a 2D game in monochrome with 3 possible inputs and no language that is better or more impactful than Limbo. There are only 2 colors with which this world is depicted: the stunning white of our characters' eyes and the mind control slugs, and the brutalist, unforgiving black of every solid object. Everything else belongs to the spectrum of intermediate grays. The expression within this grayscale is so advanced that I actually checked the video just now to make sure the mind slugs weren't yellow and the laser turrets weren't red. They had expressed their character to me so powerfully that I thought they had color. Instead of using a larger palette less completely, Limbo has squeezed as much as possible out of a monochromatic color scheme. There are only 3 inputs that Limbo will accept: walking, left or right, jumping, and grabbing or interacting, which are the same button. These are employed and combined to solve countless puzzles. There are no unlockable abilities or upgrade systems. There isn't even a tutorial. There is no need for one. The escalation of complexity is driven only by the game combining these 3 simple inputs in different ways, and adding new objects like gravity switches and saw blades. It is up to the player to follow along with this curve, and the controls do not get in the way. They are snappy and tight, and always function consistently and correctly. Many platformers will have more moves than a controller has buttons, leading to systems where the player must dig through menus to equip the tool that the present situation calls for. Limbo achieves maximum complexity with a minimum of inputs. There are only 2 dimensions to be observed or traversed. Objects will appear nearer or farther than each other, but never really have depth in their own right. Characters are not much more than stick figures, but their body language, animation, and unique design remain enthralling. In terms of traversal, the later puzzles often seem to have 4 dimensions, or at least require 4-dimensional thinking. Gravity switches and rotating environments absolutely maximize the usage of a 2-dimensional space. Limbo is a world largely devoid of language. The only letters that appear between the title screen and the credits are the deadly neon characters on a rooftop that spell hotel. There aren't any voices either. The oral landscape is made up of television static. Impassioned tones that approach the definition of music. And distinctly informative sound effects. That's it. It is not a long game. This playthrough took me 3.3 hours, despite getting pretty damn stuck on a few of the puzzles. As a result, none of the objects or mechanics wear out their appeal from the attrition of use. The only time that something is unwelcome is when it's a gigantic fucking spider, but even that is dispensed of relatively quickly. There is actually enough variety here that even within a 3-hour space there are mechanics that resurface after a while, like old friends showing up to join a party already full of newer friends. Between the spider forest, the flooded infrastructure of a city in disrepair, and the electromechanical gears of industry, There is not much that could be specifically called story. Limbo is a journey, a cogent, playable experience through these spaces that does not stop for any cutscenes or story beats. The spider in pursuit killing the children who hid as we passed, using a dead body to trip a trap, the disappointment and disgust of getting brainwormed just meters away from the one we seek. These story elements manifest themselves in the player's own experience of gameplay. In this way, the game is the narrative. 11 years later, such integration is becoming a much more powerful trend, but many games still fail to make that connection. Limbo is a blank slate of sorts, a colorless world onto which the player projects themselves. The various means of death are not really shown, but more implied by what happens to the featureless black shape of the character. It is the player who imagines the true gruesomeness of such a dismemberment or impalement. We do not know if, after shattering symbolic glass in an impossible maneuver, the hero is happy or sad to wake up within walking distance of the girl he has come all this way to see. Instead, the player feels their own emotions, the cocktail of relief, accomplishment, and weariness which surfaces at the end of any arduous journey. By leaving empty space to be filled, Limbo makes a powerful statement without saying anything at all.